back with a video. Today I recreated my high school makeup look and this is what we're looking like. But if you're interested in this video, stay tuned and let's get right into it. Hey girly pops, so these are the products that I use for my skin prep. This is what got my skin looking so glowy. And of course I use Carmex. Jumping right in with my pink e.l.f. grippy primer with the niacinamide. I'm just gonna put that on in 2 spots and rub it in all over my face. A little goes a long way. Then I'm going to use my little painter's dish and I'm gonna put my Fenty foundation in. While the foundation is sitting and oxidizing, I'm gonna go in with my Black Radiance setting powder and I'm gonna put it all over my brows. After my brows are nice and dried out, I'm gonna go in with my Morphe brow gel. I'm gonna thoroughly brush through my brows and try to slick them down as best as I possibly can, and then I'm gonna let those sit while I color correct the hyperpigmentation around my mouth. Going in with the Morphe brow pencil in the shade Chocolate Mousse, I'm gonna go ahead and outline my brows. I try my best to follow the natural curvature of my brows and fill in that natural shape. However, sometimes I do veer off course a little bit just to make them look a little nicer. And I also make them a tad bit thicker. I start with the bottom first and then I move to the top. I fill it in towards the back and I do my little flicks in the front, and then that's how I get my foundation for my brows. Now obviously there's a couple of things that have changed since high school. I don't do big block brows anymore, so I'm definitely not going to do them in this video. I'm gonna keep my brows how I do them currently. I know this is a recreation video, but we're going to recreate with a little bit of current tricks because I cannot with the block brows, guys. I can't do it, no. But getting back to the video, I'm going to go ahead and brush out the front of my brows to get rid of those really harsh lines in the front, and then I'm gonna fill in a couple of more spots, do a couple more flicks, and then I'm gonna move right on to the LA Pro Conceal color correcting. Now I'm gonna blend this all out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take my Black Radiance setting powder and I'm gonna set it all really well because I do smile a lot, which means that I get really bad smile lines. Going in with my e.l.f. Camo and my e.l.f. Hydrating Concealers, I'm gonna go ahead and put the lightest shade at the back and the darker shade that's closest to my skin tone in the front. I'm going to start carving out my brow, starting with the lightest shade in the back of the brow first on both sides. Since both of my brows are 2 different shapes, one of them has an arch and one of them doesn't, so I try to get my brows as close to looking like sisters or twins as I possibly can, making sure I take my time, and then transitioning to the darker shade that's in the front, the one that's closest to my skin tone. I'm going to make sure that I mix this front shade in the back a little with the back shade just so that it's a nice ombre effect, and then I'm going to go ahead on the top of my brows and start carving out the top of my brows as well. Trust the process. They're not twins just yet, but they're definitely on their way. And now here we go. I have both of my brows carved out. I'm gonna go ahead and connect them just a tad. I do this step to make sure that they're even, but don't worry, it won't be a unibrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and blend out the foundation / base that's on my eyelids, and I'm also gonna blend the top of my brows as well. These 2 concealer shades are serving as a base, and it's also really good if you want to do eyeshadow as well. Although I'm not going to do eyeshadow in this video, I'm just going to keep it really simple and natural, and I'm going to go ahead and set both of my eyelids really well, making sure that I'm not leaving behind any creases or missing any crevices. I'm then going to move on to my foundation using the same concealer brush that I used before. I'm then going to use a Real Techniques brush to blend it out all over my face. And do you see that shine, that glow, that oomph? My skin looks so dewy and glowy. It's so beautiful. However, I am a matte girly, and I'm only a matte girly because my skin is super duper oily. I like to say that I have combination skin, but trust me, if I let my face sit all day, I will become a grease ball. Like, it's bad. So I have to be a matte girly, but it looks so good. I'm going to make sure that when I'm blending out my foundation that I'm not putting foundation in my edges, or I'm not putting foundation in my eyebrows that I just carved out, because I don't want to have to fix them. But yes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish blending this out, and then I'm going to move on to my concealer. Going in with my e.l.f. concealers, I'm going to go ahead and start on my chin. And a fun fact, I've been doing my concealer this way since high school. If it's one thing that stayed the same, it's most definitely the way that I do my concealer. The only thing that's changed about my concealer since high school is the amount of concealer that I use. I now use about 4 to 5 different e.l.f. concealer shades to get my perfect ombre blend. However, when I was in high school, I probably just used like maybe 2 or 3. Taking the concealer on my chin, my forehead, and my cheeks, as you can see, as I get closer and closer to the center of my face underneath my eyes, I'm gonna go brighter and brighter with the concealer. You should definitely not put your brightest concealer on during this step. Save the brightest concealer after you blend out all of these shades. And you'll definitely see what I'm talking about in the next couple of minutes when I get to my last concealer. But yes, this is what it's looking like. It's looking so good, and I'm about to get right into blending. So let's go ahead and let's blend this out with a wet beauty blender. And when I say wet, I most definitely mean damp. Starting with my chin first, I'm going to blend out the darker shade on my chin first and then go into the lighter shade. And then I'm going to go ahead on my cheeks and I'm going to go ahead and do the same steps. I blend out the darker shade first. I blend from out to in. So the inner shades are always the lightest shades. So I always start with the outer shades because those are the darker shades. You're going to see me take the concealer onto the sides of my nose, and that's just my way of creating a base for my bronzer to sit when it's time for me to bronze my nose. If this isn't already a step that you do, you should definitely put it in your makeup routine. I recommend it a lot because I feel like it makes my nose look so snatched when I finally put the bronzer on. So I'm going to finish blending out my under eyes, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to placing my brightest concealer yet under my eyes. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let that sit while I blend out my forehead. Using the exact same technique I use on the rest of my face, where I blend out the darker shade first and then blend out the inner shade, I'm going to do the exact same thing on my forehead, but I'm going to use a brush instead of a blender. Going in with my e.l.f. liquid bronzer, I'm going to put it along the bottom of my cheekbone, where I don't know if you can tell, but I have a natural dark shadow right there that I like to use as a guideline. And this is a very new step, but I'm also going to use it on my nose. Now, as you've probably noticed from my last video that I posted, I didn't used to use liquid bronzer, but now I do, and so I'm including it. Taking this brush that I got from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to use that and I'm going to blend out those areas where I put the liquid bronzer at. Starting with the cheekbones and moving on to my forehead, and then finally doing my nose last. I know I told y'all to trust the process, and are you seeing it? My face looks so good. It looks so carved out. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm going to blend out my lightest concealer because I am a bright under eye girly and I need it to shine. Like, I need my eyes to be bright. My under eyes, it gotta be blinding everybody that sees me. And this is what it's looking like now that it's all blended out. Now I'm going to go in with my e.l.f. liquid blush, and I'm going to make 4 dots on my face because lately, girl, that blush blind has been getting me. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's not terrible, don't get me wrong. It's not terrible, but baby girl, sometimes I gotta calm it down. Sometimes I gotta make it, y'all know what I'm talking about. And then I gotta take it on my nose because you know what Mona Leo said. I put blush on my nose. He think that is so cute because it is cute. It's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love it so bad. You're going to see me go back in with my beauty blender under my eyes again, and that's just so I can blend out any creases that may have formed while I was doing the other stuff. And then immediately after blending out those creases, I'm going to go in with my loose setting powder on both sides under my eyes because my eyes, if I look down for even 1 second, girl, 1 second, they creasing immediately. So I have to do that very fast. And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set the rest of my face because, like I said, I have to be a matte girly because by the end of the day I'm going to look greasy, very much dewy, very much full of life. I can't lie though, I love being a matte girly. Like, it's not like I have to be a matte girly, but I want to be a matte girly. But this is what it's looking like, and then you're gonna see me pull down my shirt to show you, girl, it's matching. Like, don't be confused just because my neck is a completely different color. But yes, I'm gonna go ahead and with my Juvia's Place bronzer palette. Believe it or not, in high school I did not bronze at all, girl, at all. And that's spooky as fuck. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't looking bad. I just didn't know how to bronze yet in high school. And I most definitely did not know how to bronze my nose, like, or contour my nose for that matter. Girl, I didn't try, but it's all trial and error, so like, trust the process. But once again, when I bronze my nose, I like to make sure I leave a small gap in the middle, just because I like to put a line of loose setting powder down my nose to define the bridge of my nose. And I'm gonna go ahead and take that into the little crevice where my eyes are, just to make sure that everything is meshing really well. And then I'm gonna go ahead with my deeper shade of the Juvia's Place bronzer, and I'm gonna put that right at that cusp where my cheekbone is. Moving on to my blush palette from Max Lux Studios. I'm over here trying to decide which one I should choose. Should I go with my usual? Should I go with a different one? Should I go with the orange one? Which one should I choose? So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna mix it. In the end, I ended up mixing all three of the shades that I kept pointing at, very lightly, of course. I didn't want it to be really heavy because, like I said, I'm trying to avoid that blush blindness. But yeah, I'm gonna take it onto my nose because, again, blush on your nose is so freaking adorable. Taking that loose setting powder, I'm going to draw a line down the bridge of my nose and also a horizontal line when I get down to the bridge of my nose. I do this step to define the bridge of my nose, but I'm going to go ahead and take that bronzer brush that I was using before to bronze my nose, and I'm going to clean up those lines to make sure that they're nice and straight and sleek and there's nothing out of place. These are the two mascaras I'm going to be using by Essence, and I'm going to use the micellar water to clean off my lips. I like to wipe off my lips so that I have a blank canvas for my lip liners and my lip gloss. Now I'm going to go in with these two mascaras, going back and forth between one and the other, just so I can make sure that my lashes look really good and full, because in high school, in the beginning, I did not know how to put on lashes. So I only did mascara, and I like to do both my top and bottom lashes because it just gave baby doll. Now I'm gonna go in with my eyeliner and I'm gonna put my two moles on, and then I'm gonna move on to my lip combo. Starting with the lighter shade brown lip liner first, I'm going to go ahead and do the first line. It's kind of like a guideline. This is slightly different than how I did in high school. In high school, I emphasized my Cupid's bow, but now I like a round lip. So I'm gonna do that instead. And after I put down the darkest shade of lip liner, I'm gonna go in with my NYX lip gloss in the shade Fortune Cookie, and then I'm gonna top that off with some clear gloss on top. Taking my powder puff, I'm gonna carve out the rest of my face using loose setting powder, but I'm gonna make sure not to put too much because I don't like to bake. I just like to push it directly into my face. This step helps to emphasize the bronzer, and it also gives it a cleaner look. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing around my nose, and when I do it around my nose, it also gives it this extra snatched look. I'm gonna use this big fluffy brush to dust off any of the excess powders before I spray down my face. Using my Morphe Continuous Mist Setting Spray and my fan that I got from Amazon, I'm going to go ahead and drench my face. Like I said, I like to drench my face, but not to the point where my face is dripping, because when it drips, it messes up. So yeah, this setting spray is by far my absolute favorite setting spray. I like it better than any other setting spray I've used so far. And yeah, girl, it's just the best. Get you some. Now after this step, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab my highlighter from ColourPop, and I'm gonna put it down the bridge of my nose and also on the very tip of my nose, just to emphasize how snatched my nose is. And it's gonna look so cutesy, giving very much SZA. And I'm sure you noticed, but I'm blending it out with my finger just so I don't take away too much of the product. And this is what it's looking like. Final results.